What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 31 of the 248 podcast. And for the first time in almost a year, this is going to be one I'm doing by myself. So Matt's at work right now. And all my other friends have other things going on. So you got just me for a little bit. So I hope the audio sounds okay. When I edit this, I'm going to try and normalize the audio, take away the white noise and stuff like that. So I hope this sounds okay. Regardless of what happens with the editing and stuff, leave a comment down below and tell me how it sounds. So let's get into some topics. What do y'all want to hear? That's another thing I want you to leave in the comments down below is what you think I should talk about. It's always so difficult to try and piece these podcasts together and come up with quality content, especially because sometimes if I'm doing it with my friends, there'll be things that I want to talk about or that they want to talk about that maybe the other person isn't really interested in. So it's a delicate balance trying to vibe off each other. So Matt and I spent this morning, we went to the park and did a photo shoot, pictures of me. They came out good. Like, the quality is great, but in terms of me, how my appearance is, like, I'm trying to be more confident and try loving myself and stuff like that. And I've made some strides in that area, but at the end of the day, I'm still feeling incredibly self-conscious about my appearance and that sort of a thing. So I was definitely cringing at myself in some of these pictures, but a couple of them came out pretty decent. So just trying to bite the bullet and not be so self-conscious about that kind of stuff. But it's incredibly difficult, though. So yeah, we did that, and then we came back and he edited some of the pictures, threw in nice little filters and fixed up some pimples and blemishes, things of that nature. So that's what I got the idea to decide. It was time to do another solo podcast. Hadn't done one of these in a while, and I was itching to get a podcast out to the viewers, all 255 of you. So yeah, and while Matt and I were working on those pictures, we were listening to some Nickelback, newer Nickelback, Feed the Machine. And Matt was, I remember when that came out a couple years ago, and I was so impressed with how good it was. And then I played it back for Matt today, and he thought it was like Saint Asonia. That's Adam from 3 Days Grace. That's what he thought it was. He didn't think it was Nickelback, and he was so shocked to see that it was. And it's Nickelback was actually capable of making good music. They have some guilty, Photograph and Rockstar. Those are some good guilty pleasures. They're kind of like a meme band at this point, especially with that whole thing with Trump and Biden. But Nickelback's not too bad. And I even bought the Feed the Machine album, the title track, Coin for the Ferryman. Those are some good songs. I think Nickelback is they're an easy to hate band, but at the end of the day, they have a handful of really good songs, and I think they're marginally appreciated for how good those songs actually are. It's pretty surreal. I remember when Feed the Machine first came out, and it was heavier than what fucking Suicide Silence was doing at the time. Any y'all rock and metal fans out there remember that? When Nickelback was heavier than Suicide Silence, Linkin Park, and God rest in peace, Chester Bennington. All these other bands that were coming out with music at the time, Nickelback was just blowing them out of the water out of nowhere. It was fucking crazy. So yeah, me and Matt were listening to that while we worked on some of these pictures. Yeah, it's, like I said, it's tough trying to love myself and not be so self-conscious about my weight, my appearance. If I have an ugly smile in these pictures, how my hair looks, that's a big thing. But then I try to take a step back and realize that I'm incredibly fortunate, and I have a roof over my head, and I'm able to work and pay for nice clothes and cologne and deodorant and things of that nature. But a lot of that's just out of necessity, right? I'm a firm believer that no matter who you are, and no matter what you look like or how self-conscious you might be about what you look like, you should always take pride in your appearance. You should always take pride in your hygiene, stuff like that. I understand money's tight in days like these. We'll get into that later on. But, I mean, it's not hard to take care of yourself and your appearance and your hygiene and clothes and stuff like that. It's easy to shop on a budget and get quality things. I got a haircut a few weeks ago. My hair's starting to grow back a little bit, but it looks so. I'm a little iffy on it now that it's starting to grow back a little bit. But when the first few days after it gets cut, looks awesome. Yeah, I shave. I cut my fingernails at least once a week, if not twice a week. Bought tons of nice clothes, some sweaters, some button downs, khaki jeans, new kicks, all from Walmart, upwards of like maybe $50, and it all looks banging. And I'm I'm loving myself. Like I know I just got through saying how difficult it is, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to. So, like, I mean, clothes go a long way in helping me with that. It's like I'll go out and I look kind of overdressed compared to other people in my neighborhood because Scranton, PA is kind of a low key ghetto area, but it's like, yeah, like it enhances my appearance a little bit. I'm probably should maybe style my hair a little differently or wear a hat or something like that to off put whatever self-consciousness I have about how my hair looks, because that, like I said, that's a huge thing with me. I'm always wondering if my hair looks good or not, and a lot of times it looks something like I think it does, and then it pisses me off. But it's like, yeah, if you wear some nice clothes, it'll have you feeling good, confident. I remember when I first bought all these clothes, I took them outside, and I was like, damn, I actually look good, and I actually feel good too. That's the important thing. And I mean, you don't have to dress preppy or whatever. Like, you can, like, even like Walmart has like casual looking clothes that still look good but are cheap and are like really casual, laid back, like long sleeve t-shirts or baseball tees and shorts, shit like that. Like, you can still buy that for like $4, $5, $6 and still look decent, but still look casual and relaxed, and yeah, still look good. Like it's not that, like, I understand, especially in this country, when with the way things are with wages and stuff like that, and how contentious the political climate is, and how people are struggling to make ends meet. I understand that money can be a little tight, but you don't have to go to fucking J. Crew or Tommy Hilfiger and spend $80 on clothes just to look good. Like, you can go to Walmart like I did, spend $5, $10, $15 at a time, and still look not just presentable, look pretty good. Like, I'm not bragging. Like, I'm not asking for a fucking award because I budgeted my money and wound up with some decent clothes. I'm not asking for a cookie or some shit. But my point is, like, it's like, as someone who struggles with self-love and body images, I really don't like the idea of, like, looking down on other people, especially because I know people might not be as fortunate as I am. But it's like, if I see someone wearing just like raggedy clothes or something like that, or like, you have to go on like a case-by-case basis, and you have to, like, if you actually know the person, you can. I'm certainly not condoning being judgmental of other people, but if, like, you know the person well enough, you might be able to have your own, like, have that takeaway in your mind. So I think about some of my friends that all bust their ass working hard. They bust ass for like 40, 50, 60 hours a week, sometimes even more, working 2 or 3 jobs. And you know what they do? They take their hard-earned money and they go buy decent clothes. And even if they're just wearing t-shirts and shorts or whatever, they still look good and they take pride in their appearance. That's why I like having friends like that around, like Matt and Amanda and stuff like that. As opposed to, like, me walking out on the street and seeing someone just like raggedy clothes and they're not showered, they smell like shit. Like, I understand if people are homeless, God forbid. I understand if people, like, don't really have the money to buy toiletries. Like, I totally understand that, and I'm not trying to be unfair to those people, especially as someone, like I just said, who struggles with their own body image issues. I'm certainly not trying to play devil's advocate and look down on those people, because I'm not. Like, again, I don't come from privilege. I come from poverty, and working a minimum wage job and seeing what's happened to this country in terms of wages and stuff like that has opened my eyes to how much it takes just to get by, and not do well, but just get by in this country. I understand if people don't really have a lot of money to go buy nice things. Like, I'm not saying they should, because, like, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Like, I think I'm going all over the place, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to have a really thought-provoking conversation with myself, and it's going off into different places. But my point is, I mean, if I can be a little more confident in myself and not be so judgmental on myself, then you can too. And you can go to Walmart, buy a long sleeve t-shirt for $5, go to Dollar Tree, which we have a Walmart and a Dollar Tree right here in the same plaza here in Taylor, where Matt lives, only 15 minutes away from my house. You can go to Dollar Tree, get toothpaste, toothbrush, deodorant, little things of cologne. I'd recommend, like, if they have, like, the off-brand generic shit, get that just because like it's deodorant. It doesn't smell bad, like, but don't get like Old Spice from Dollar Tree because they only had the little tiny tubes. You're not gonna get a lot of tread out of those. Yeah, but you can spend like $20. Go to Walmart and Dollar Tree. $20 to get you a nice shirt. It's casual, not too dressy, and get you some basic toiletries to take care of yourself, like deodorant and toothbrush, toothpaste. You don't even need cologne as long as you're showered and clean. You don't really need cologne. Cologne's just a bonus that I go to, just for the sake of doing so. But yeah, like I'm trying to like be kind of unpretentious and unassuming about my philosophy on this whole shit. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is you can budget your money and still look and smell presentable. Know what I'm saying? So if I could do it, you can too. So I guess that'll wrap up my little spiel on body image issues and hygiene and clothes and all that other fancy shit. So let's talk about politics. We got a lot going on in politics. So we just had the presidential debate last week. Another shit show. CNN does a horrible job at moderating these debates. I thought Bernie and Tulsi and Andrew Yang did great as always. And so what did Hillary Clinton do? She decided to jump in, stick her nose into the headlines, and viciously smear Tulsi Gabbard as a favorite of the Russians. And of course, my girl Tulsi, hashtag Tulsi 2020, she brilliantly pushed back by calling Hillary Clinton the queen of warmongers and the embodiment of corruption and the reason why the Democratic Party is in ruin today. And that is so fucking true. And I'm so happy that Tulsi didn't hold back on this and she isn't taking shit from people anymore. And it's so disgusting when I see these debates and I see town halls and stuff like that and ads on YouTube or whatever, and Tulsi will bring up how people smear her as an Assad apologist and this and that. But then people will turn around and criticize her for saying that, and then they'll say, well, this just proves that you are that. Like imagine, like, being a kid in school and being bullied. Like, imagine you are the bully, God forbid. Imagine you are the bully, and then you're appalled when the kid you're bullying finally gains the courage to stand up and defend himself. That's what mainstream media is with Tulsi Gabbard. They insult her and smear her when she's a veteran and she served our country, and then she stands up for herself and pushes back against all these smears because they're not true, and they're so surprised, like, oh, how dare you! It's so ridiculous. And even Andrew Yang came to Tulsi's defense on Twitter, and obviously the people on the left and people who actually know what's going on, people are standing with Tulsi on this whole thing with Hillary. People on the establishment side of politics are defending Hillary, saying, oh, she's been right about everything. Like, right about everything. So Hillary Clinton voted for the Iraq War, voted for the Patriot Act, supported NAFTA, supported TPP. As Secretary of State, she led regime change in Libya, which was a disaster. It became a safe space for ISIS and al-Nusra and all these other radical jihadist groups. There's now open slave trade going on in Libya. None of this was going on before we overthrew Gaddafi, but now it is. We told Gaddafi to give up his weapons. He gave up his weapons. We toppled him anyway. And see, Gaddafi, he was democratically elected. He pushed for women's rights during his reign, but there were other human rights violations or whatever that might have been going on at the time. So my point is, same thing with Assad and Saddam Hussein, all these other people. I'm not defending them. I'm not saying they're good people. But that's no excuse for us to invade countries that didn't attack us and topple, in the case of Gaddafi, democratically elected leaders. Because we wouldn't tolerate that from other countries. Like, for fuck's sake, well, Trump gets up at 5 a.m. while he's taking a shit and tweets a coup of Venezuela, tweets the Maduro regime out of existence. Now, I'm not going to defend Maduro. You're not going to get me to defend Venezuela. But we need to make sure the facts are on the table. We need to make sure we're all informed about what's actually going on. We're preventing food and medicine from coming into... I think Kyle from Secular Talk brought this up. I know we said food. I don't know about medicine. That's the thing with Saudi Arabia and Yemen. We're sanctioning food from coming into their country. And then we're acting like they're so malnourished and so impoverished, and we put crippling sanctions on their economy, and then we act like, you see, their economy is under in ruin. That's why we have to go in there and completely overthrow their government? It's so ridiculous. So Trump tweets, probably while he's taking a shit, that he doesn't recognize Maduro as the leader of Venezuela, which, again, you're not going to get me to defend Maduro, but can you imagine if the Grand Ayatollah in Iran came out and said, we recognize Hillary Clinton as the President of the United States because she won the popular vote? We would bomb them off the map tomorrow if they said some shit like that. So it's absolutely absurd. We can do it to other countries, but they can't do it to us. We're the police of the world. That's our mentality. You want to know how great your country is, America? Trump is now sending troops to Saudi Arabia, radical Islamic terrorists in Saudi Arabia, to go defend their oil. We're sending our men and women in uniform to go die in defense of terrorist oil. That's how great America is. Like, we're butt buddies with Saudi Arabia, but then we want to do regime change with all these other countries, and if you push back and you want to push for peace and diplomacy, you're smeared as an Assad apologist, or you love Maduro, or you love this person or that person. It's so ridiculous. The Overton window in this country has been shifted so far to the right that anything not remotely right-wing is considered to be crazy radical socialism, and anything that's anti-war, pro-peace is smeared as like you being an apologist or a lover of a dictator. Like, it's not the case. It's absolutely disgusting. So I'm glad Tulsi wasn't holding back on this. I'm glad that she's finally standing up for herself, because she doesn't deserve any of this. She would make a great commander-in-chief. I mean, if Bernie gets nominated, he becomes president, she would make a great vice president or secretary of state or secretary of defense. I know Bernie and Tulsi are on the same team. If Bernie becomes president, he'll have a place for her in the cabinet, and that's very important, because then she'll have a steady hand on foreign policy, having a say in all these important discussions, and making sure we're getting out of all these wasteful regime change wars. So, people in the establishment acting like Tulsi's so irrelevant, Tulsi doesn't deserve a place at the table. Well, she does, and she's taking it whether you like it or not. And, her presence is so necessary. Like we need the anti-war, pro-peace voice out there, because you probably heard that notification. Sorry. Because she is a veteran. I mean, I know Pete Buttigieg is a veteran, but she is too. She's seen the cost of war. She was in charge of a medical unit when she was deployed to Iraq. She had to deal with her brothers and sisters in uniform losing their legs and all these other ligaments, and actually seeing firsthand what war was doing, not just to her brothers and sisters in uniform, but what we were doing to Iraq. What we were instigated into that war based on lies against a country that didn't attack us. Saddam Hussein didn't have weapons of mass destruction. So we just toppled their government and broke the Middle East for no reason, based on lies. So bloodthirsty neocon war criminals could make more money, move pieces up and down this geopolitical chessboard, and control more parts of the world. And because we have such a completely, utterly broken system, George W. Bush, the mass murdering war criminal, will never serve a day behind bars when he should be. But of course, we got Ellen DeGeneres saying, "Oh, well, we need to get along with." Yeah, I sat at a football game with George W. Bush. We need to sit and be nice to people we disagree with, and that's okay. That we're all different. It's so. Think of the precedent this sets. We're talking about fucking normalizing mass murdering war criminals. I guarantee the same people that think it's okay that Ellen is being chummy with a fucking war criminal, those same people think Tulsi is an absolute monster for meeting with Assad. It's fucking ridiculous. So, but where do these fucking multimillionaires get off virtue signaling about peace and unity and kindness and decorum with people we disagree with? That you're normalizing a fucking war criminal who should be behind bars. Specifically him, because when he ran for re-election in 2004, one of the centerpieces of his campaign was amending the Constitution to keep gay marriage illegal. He wanted to use the power of the Constitution to specifically discriminate against Ellen DeGeneres. And she's cool with sitting next to him and defending him and calling him a friend. So, again, but take her at her word. If she really if she's so serious about being friends with people she disagrees with politically, does that mean she'll sit at a football game with Donald Trump, Richard Spencer, the neo-Nazi? I don't think so. You can't pick and choose which disgusting individuals you can say, oh, we're just friends and we're just disagreeing. You can't pick and choose who you're allowed to just disagree with. and who is just like who's morally repugnant and who's it's just a disagreement. You can't pick and choose, Ellen. You can't. It's so ridiculous. I can't. At a time when minimum wage is not a living wage, the infrastructure is crumbling, people are losing their health care left and right, schools are underfunded, all these problems are going on. We're having a discussion of whether or not Nazis are bad, if it's okay to normalize war criminals. Like here we are, we're about to be in 2020, and whether or not sitting next to a war criminal is okay is such a difficult concept for people to understand, and I don't get it at all. And then we have Tulsi, the one voice in this election that's, I mean, I know Bernie's against the wars, but Tulsi's like her main thing is ending the regime change wars, and she's all about peace and diplomacy, and she's being smeared as an Assad apologist and a Russian puppet. And it's so ridiculous. And this is where our country is. We've got Rachel Madcow screaming about Russia every day when the Mueller investigation found 10 potential instances of potential obstruction, but they found no direct collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. And now we found out that Mueller lied about wanting to be back as FBI director. He did want that job back, but he lied during his testimony saying he didn't want the job back. So we had a 2.5-year long investigation. We found nothing, no evidence of collusion. She's still screaming about it every day on MSNBC, not talking about the actual issues that impact people's lives. And then the one voice who's against the wars is being smeared as an Assad apologist and a dictator lover or whatever the fuck. That's where our country is. This is how bad mainstream media sucks at doing their job. That's why Kyle Kulinski and Jimmy Dore and the Young Turks and David Pakman and the Humanist Report all have tons of subscribers and get really good views. Because mainstream media is so terrible at their job, pawning off establishment, deep state, CIA propaganda onto you, that independent media on YouTube and stuff like that becomes not just a viable alternative, that becomes preferable. And that's why I like it, for fuck's sake. But then, CNN and MSNBC, they can't have that, so They push their ads on you on YouTube. They get ad money on that. That's their literal lifeblood at this point because their ratings suck. And then all these independent news outlets like Kyle and Jimmy Dore, all these other people, get demonetized. It's only one notch below full-out censorship because I'm sure they'd go for that if they could. It's just so ridiculous. So, and I have no intention of being like I feel like at some point someone's gonna tell me that I'm like too aggressive in my arguments. Again, they'll deflect from the policy substance, especially because like me supporting Tulsi has helped. As a result, I've adopted her anti-war platform, vociferously. So I feel like at some point someone's gonna deflect from the policy substance and just talk about how aggressive I am and how mean I am and how like John Delaney said the same thing. Like he was booed at a California convention because he came out against Medicare for All, and he was booed, and he said, "Oh, why can't we just disagree respectfully and civilly?" Okay, well, he's actively against all the things that people are for. His entire platform is running on what the people are against. And even Elizabeth Warren made a good point saying, why would you run for president? Just talk about what you're against. Talk about what you're for. But I'll tell you what John Delaney's for. John Delaney's for a national service program to make military and community service mandatory by law. How about that? And Kyle Kulinski made a good point. So we elect these people into office. We pay them with taxes. They don't represent us. They do the bidding of their corporate donors on Wall Street. But then they want to make us do stuff when they don't even do what we hired and paid them to do. Imagine that. It's so ridiculous. And I keep saying, we need to invent a game. Every time I say so ridiculous or so disgusting, take a drink, and you'll be hammered by the end of this podcast. Yeah. I don't know what we're going to do. We got to make sure that Bernie, I know Tulsi's probably the long shot. We got to make sure Bernie's the nominee. Just to sweeten the deal, we got to make sure Tulsi is his VP if he's the nominee, because that's a winning ticket right there. They will win in a landslide if the ticket is Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. So leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think about all this, because, I mean, we need the anti-war, anti-corruption, populist candidates on the ticket, or else we're going to lose to Trump. What, you want to run Joe Biden, the gaffe machine? You want to run Pete Buttigieg? You want to run... And again, to bring back to Tulsi, she brought, well, at the last debate she was in, she brought up Kamala Harris's atrocious record as a prosecutor. Kamala Harris kept people in prison beyond their sentences and used them as cheap labor for the state of California. There's a word for that. It's called slavery. A black woman did slavery. And then Tulsi also brought up how Kamala blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man. So she has an... Oh, and you know what else about Kamala Harris is she voted for Steve Mnuchin to be Trump's Treasury Secretary, even though when she was Attorney General of California, she was strongly encouraged to prosecute him because his One West Bank was illegally foreclosing on grandmas and grandpas left and right. But she didn't do it because he bought her off with campaign contributions. And then she voted for him to be Treasury Secretary. That's who Kamala Harris is. She'll play ball for the establishment, and she'll dead end the left if she becomes president. And a fucking atrocious record as a prosecutor, waffling on Medicare for all, and you want to elect her as president? You want to elect Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, because she has a lot of the same problems, walking back her stance on Medicare for all and that sort of a thing. But you want to elect Beto O'Rourke? I skateboard, totally tubular, bro. You want to elect fucking Amy Klobuchar? Because Amy Klobuchar had some of the most speaking time during this last debate. She spoke more than Bernie. She spoke about 15 minutes. And she said absolutely nothing. She's a fucking walking, talking bowl of oatmeal. But Main Street Media said, oh, she had a great night. Well, you think so because you prop candidates like her up and you give her extended speaking time for no reason. Meanwhile, Tulsi barely got 8 minutes to speak, and when Tulsi came at Elizabeth Warren's face with a sledgehammer, they protected Elizabeth Warren and cut to a commercial break. And this is why the virtue signaling about peace and unity from people like Ellen is so sickening, because, okay, I understand you have to at least be kind and try to have human respect for people you disagree with politically. But you're not going to get me to sit down and be friends with and have a beer with a fucking neo-Nazi like Richard Spencer. You're not going to get me to sit down and be friends with a mass-murdering war criminal. And you're certainly not going to get me to compromise my stance on these issues, because now is not the time to virtue signal about decorum and civility when the only clear division in this country is the wealthy and the powerful and the corrupt versus everybody else trying to actually take their country back and turn the broken illusion that the people run this country into a reality like it should have been all along. That's the real division. And virtue signaling from high above about peace and decorum is the last fucking thing we need to hear. So, like I said, sound off in the comments down below about all this, because it's like a political WWE. It's sometimes it's hilarious, but most of the time it's just cringeworthy and fucking irritating. And I'm gonna take a short break. We'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I had to get myself a beverage and blow my nose and stuff. So professional, aren't I? Here, let's do some ASMR. See if you can hear this set. Probably couldn't hear that because I'm not using Matt's really good microphone. But that's okay. So, where were we? So, politics. So, I guess we'll talk about impeachment now. So, I made a video about this about a week ago, but the real case for impeachment is this. So, before Trump became president, he said Saudi Arabia was responsible for 9/11, which isn't, that's not a lie. 15 of those 19 hijackers on 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. They're a theocratic terrorist regime. They're radical Islamic terrorists. They're jihadists. They have the same Salafist ideology as ISIS. They treat women as second-class citizens. They only just recently allowed women to drive, but then they publicly executed some of the people that were advocating for that to happen, like politicians and journalists, stuff like that. They gave those people what they wanted because they were pushing and advocating for women to have the right to drive. They gave those people what they wanted. They gave women the right to drive, but then they publicly executed those people anyway. And they behead people in the public square all the time, as Kyle from Secular Talk brings this up all the time. They bomb schools and hospitals and open-air markets and schools for the blind. So they're radical Islamic terrorists that we have no business doing business with. But we're butt buddies with them because we have an oil deal. And so, again, Trump used to say they were terrorists responsible for 9/11, but as soon as he got in office, they showered him with gifts, almost quite literally. They just gave him all tons of nice gifts. I'd like to get some gifts, wouldn't you? No, they gave him gifts, and in exchange, he overrode the will of the people and the will of Congress and approved a multi-billion-dollar weapons deal, which they turned around and used those weapons. And this is not to excuse. Oh, this started under Obama, so he's not innocent in any of this either. This all started under him, the original weapons deal that Rand Paul tried to bring an end to before Trump took office. This was September 2016. Only 4 Republicans, Bernie Sanders, and a handful of Democrats voted to stop arming Saudi Arabia. The rest of the Senate overwhelmingly voted to keep arming Saudi Arabia. And Rand Paul did an interview with Wolf Blitzer saying, we need to stop arming Saudi Arabia. And Wolf Blitzer was like, well, what about the defense contractors? What about their jobs and their profits? Doesn't that mean anything to you? So this all started during the Obama administration. But Trump kept that deal going. They're using those weapons to slaughter civilians in Yemen and, you ready, arm Al-Qaeda. You know, the people that did attack us on 9/11. Not Saddam Hussein, not the guy who didn't have weapons of mass destruction, not the guy that we invaded his country and toppled him based on lies. So and what they did was, on top of giving him gifts, they also, Saudi Arabia, they paid Trump tremendous sums of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to stay at his D.C. hotel that, 1, he never divested from. You're supposed to divest from all your business dealings before you take office. Number 2, they never fucking set foot in the hotel ever. They overpaid him to stay at a hotel that they never set foot in, that he's supposed to divest from because it sets up a conflict of interest. So now he's taking money directly from the Saudi government that violates the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution, and now they're slaughtering civilians in Yemen and arming Al-Qaeda. You can draw a straight line from Trump to Al-Qaeda, Trump to the genocide in Yemen. That's the case for impeachment. That's the case on emoluments and violating the Constitution, the Emoluments Clause, and you can directly draw a straight line to him, from him to the genocide in Yemen and Al-Qaeda. That's the case for impeachment. Because this whole thing started, this impeachment inquiry started about Ukraine with Joe Biden and his son Hunter. They actually found some dirt. They're saying, how dare you try to find dirt in your political opponent? Okay, sure, it's kind of sleazy, but they actually found some dirt. They found out that Hunter Biden was taking $50,000 a month from a Ukrainian energy firm. He has no business or expertise in that industry whatsoever. And that Joe Biden's family is profiting off his public profile. And then Trump trolled him with that Nickelback thing, bring it full circle because we were talking about Nickelback earlier. Biden, there's a video of him saying, oh, I never discussed any of this stuff with Ukraine. I never met these people. And then it's Chad from Nickelback holding up the picture of Biden and all those people from Ukraine saying, look at this photograph. So it's not to excuse Trump or his corruption or the terrible things he's done since he's become president, but he trolled Biden to perfection. Biden walked right into the trap. So yeah, they found some there. They found some dirt on Joe Biden and his son Hunter. And Biden's denying, like we have the pictures and video. It's all there. It's on the internet. It's on YouTube. We can find it. It's not like, do you think we're stupid? So there actually was some dirt, but same thing with the WikiLeaks dumps in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. People are not focusing on the substance of these revelations, but merely the existence of these revelations, the way they were brought to fruition. So we're gonna try and impeach this president in a way that deflects from the important issue, the real case for impeachment, which I just brought up about Saudi Arabia and the Emoluments Clause. You're wasting precious political capital that we need ahead of an election year to revitalize his base just in time for 2020 and coast Trump to re-election. I'm convinced that establishment Democrats and the DNC, I'm convinced they are actively trying to get Trump re-elected because he is their favorite president ever. That's your hot take / de facto conspiracy theory for the day. I'm convinced that the Democrats love Trump. Well, because actually, think about it. They all half agree with the Republicans half the time and vote for some of Trump's cabinet picks and things of that nature. Even Elizabeth Warren voted for his $160 billion weapons military budget increase. If we're going to peddled this idea that he's a Manchurian candidate, he's a puppet of Vladimir Putin, he's a warmongering maniac, because he's continuing the war machine since he's been in office. But he's unhinged, and he shouldn't have his hand on the nuclear button because he has an unsteady hand. If we're gonna peddle the notion that this guy is a maniac, because he is a maniac, why would you vote to give him more power? Vote to increase his military budget and give him more than what he was asking for, cross party lines to do so, and you said he's a maniac, but you just gave him more power, specifically more power than what he was asking for, more money for more bombs. So, this is just so crazy, and all they're so I'm convinced that because think about it. So the reason I brought this up with specifically that thing with Elizabeth Warren is because they'll vote for some of his things that he wants in some of his cabinet picks, and they'll half agree with the Republicans because the reason why Trump won is because Democrats are just diet Republicans nowadays. So the thing is, they half agree with the Republicans on pretty much half the issues. The only time they come together is bipartisanship to deregulate Wall Street and cut taxes for the rich and do more war. Those are the only times they'll come together, and they would fully support Trump if he didn't do the mean tweets, because if we go through this long, tedious impeachment process and it actually works, we'll just get President Mike Pence, who would have he's honestly more dangerous than Trump because he'll have a better time pushing through Trump's agenda, because he'll put a fake politician's smile on it and he won't do the mean tweets. But Trump broke people's brains, so that not only could we see a mass murdering war criminal like George W. Bush as a decent American and as someone you want to have as a friend, but we look at mean tweets and lack of decorum as the real problem. Because think about it. Go back to John McCain's funeral. Trump wasn't invited. It was just a place for Obama and Bush and the Bushes and the Clintons and all these other past presidents and whatever to kiss John McCain's ass, act like he was a decent man, and then you go to because when McCain's daughter Meghan McCain spoke, she got a lot of press for how she viciously attacked Trump in her eulogy of her father. Because think about it, in one instance she's crying about how much she misses her father, but then in the very next sentence she gets angry and starts viciously saying into the microphone, "America doesn't need to be made great again." You know what Meghan McCain was doing? She was exploiting her own father's death, for political capital. And then almost the same thing happened with George H.W. Bush's funeral. The Obamas and the Clintons were chumming it up, but as soon as Trump and Donald and Melania showed up, it all got tense. Because Trump is just them plus mean tweets. He puts an ugly face on the ugly things that they were already doing, that they already did. So I'm convinced that they secretly love him because they already agree with half of his agenda. They already voted for his cabinet picks and his military budget increases. That was more than what he was asking for, and all this other stuff. But they're virtue signaling about impeachment and saying no one is above the law and defending the Constitution and keeping the president in check and all this other bullshit. I'm convinced they're actively trying to get him reelected because they love him. That's my hot take conspiracy theory of the day. Because if they were so convinced that he needs to be removed from office, they wouldn't be doing it in a way that specifically wastes precious political capital that they need and revitalizes his base just in time for 2020. The election's a year away, and they're going to go into this long, tedious, unsuccessful process that is only going to help him. If they did it on emoluments, they might have a much better shot of actually impeaching and removing him from office, or at the very least damaging his political capital ahead of an election year. But no, they're going about it the wrong way, and all they're doing is helping him, which is why I'm convinced that they're trying to help him because they want him to stay in office. And then let's just say that's the case. I know it's kind of like it's borderline conspiracy theory on some Alex Jones type shit. It's not like Alex Jones saying the frogs are gay. Obama wants to make the frogs gay, but I know it's kind of like a borderline conspiracy theory, but just stay with me on this real quick. So let's take that idea and run with it, okay? So let's just say that my assertion is true, because this is just my takeaway from all of this. So let's just say they really do actually like him and they are actively trying to get him reelected. One makes you wonder, well, obviously it's bad PR for them to come out and say that's the case, so they don't want you to know that that's the case. This is all just hypothetical, me spewing this hypothetical at you. Let's just say it is the case. Well, now you have to wonder, what makes them like him and want him to actually stay in power? Because he puts an ugly face on the ugly things that were already going on. And he broke people's brains. So, again, to point out with Ellen and George W. Bush, we had fucking Rosie O'Donnell tweeting, "Oh, that's what a real president looks like. He's a mass murdering war criminal. He belongs behind bars." But Trump broke people's brains, so now George W. Bush seems like a real president and a decent man when he's not. So, their rationale probably is, oh, if we just keep Trump in power, that it makes us all look good, like by comparison. Even if we resist him from the right, not the left, we still look good by comparison because we're resisting, even though we're not. That's the only possible rationale I could think for why they would be floundering all these attempts at impeachment, floundering all these attempts at resisting him, because all they're doing is ensuring his reelection. I'm convinced they wouldn't be helping him if they weren't actually trying to. And if they were actually trying to, what would be the reason? That, he just tweets crazy shit all day, so that provides fleece and cover for us where we don't look so bad. And it distracts from all the horrible things we're doing. That's the only possible rationale that I can think of. So, I think I'm going to close on that. I want y'all out there listening to sound off in the comments about Tulsi, about the impeachment inquiry, about foreign policy, about the election, Joe Biden with Ukraine, everything that's going on, everything I just talked about and more politically. I want you to sound off in the comment section down below. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope it was informative and thought-provoking on some level. And if you did, please leave a like and a comment and subscribe and tap the bell to become part of our notification squad. And for Seamus 24 I was gonna say for Matt Balloon 115, but he's not here. But yeah, go subscribe to him, Matt Balloon 1115. Go subscribe to him. He's my buddy. But yeah, I am Seamus 248, signing off episode 31 of the 248 podcast. I'll see you next time.